Hello everyone, Trophy Wine Hunter. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm reviewing a 2018 Le Petit Cheval. I'm not going to talk too much about Cheval Blanc itself, just a little bit of introductory notes because I want to leave that for an actual review of the Cheval Blanc, the Grand Cru wine. But Cheval Blanc is now owned by LVMH, Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy. It's planted to 52% Cabernet Franc, 43% Merlot, and 5% Cabernet Sauvignon. So what distinguishes Cheval Blanc from most other right-back wineries is actually very Cabernet Franc dominant. There's only a few wineries like them. The other thing that distinguishes Cheval Blanc is they have a complex terroir that really consists of three different types of soils. So there's 40% of it is gravel soils that are over clay, and a lot of that is blue clay. And some people believe that blue clay is what makes their Merlot so spectacular. Another 40% of their terroir is deep gravel soils, and the 20% is sandy clay. And so it's this three different soil types that all makes it very complex and usually makes Cheval Blanc good in almost every vintage because they have almost every type of soil. So no matter what the climate or the weather conditions, it's usually some part of it is going to be good, and then they can tweak it by the mix in the actual blend. So they have there are five elevated gravel hillsides in St-Emilion, and two of them belong to Cheval Blanc. And so there's very complex soil types in Cheval Blanc. They have 10 distinctive soil types, and I saw that when I visited the winery. It's unbelievable in terms of they've got that all gradations of different types of soil as they go deeper and deeper. And again, this allows them to produce great Merlot on blue clay, but also great expressions of Cabernet Franc. And their Cabernet Franc is actually a strain that's that survived the frost. I think it was in the 60s, and it's a certain clone called Boucher. And the key with Boucher is that unlike newer Cabernet Franc, it's fairly, because it went through the tough climate in the 60s, it's kind of fairly resistant. So it kind of produces almost in every climate, even in very cold frost type conditions. It actually is quite good doing that. The first vintage of Le Petit Cheval was in 1988, and about 10% of the production of Cheval Blanc is used in Le Petit Cheval, and the blend is a little bit different. It's actually, in this year at least, it was 70% Merlot and 30% Cabernet Franc, whereas you'll see in the Grand Cru Cheval Blanc, it's much more, almost 50-50, with a bit of a more dominancy for the Cabernet Franc. So the 2018 was a spectacular vintage for Cheval Blanc, and I remember tasting this wine at the winery. It's kind of a weird vintage because it was very wet between January and June, and there's a lot of concern about mildew and mold. But that actually worked out well because that rain that came in the early part helped, because once it went to July to October, it was really almost like a drought season. So all that soaking up of the soil, soaking up the water actually helped in the last part of the year, which was kind of very, very dry. And so somehow it actually worked out well. And they've got incredible intensity of wine. So I remember drinking this wine at the winery. We had went through a number of vintages, and this one, when we drank it, it just shocked me in terms of the power. It's 14.5%, which you almost never see in Bordeaux wines, and especially Cheval Blanc. And when we talked to the winemaker, he said he already tried to control it. It could have been higher. There was so much ripeness and so much residual sugar in the grapes. It was so ripe, and so it was already a controlled style. So this is going to be on the powerful end of Cheval Blanc. This is without losing its style. That's the key. They try to continue on with the style of Cheval Blanc, even though it's a really ripe vintage, high alcohol in it. So let's look at the cork. Fairly long cork, and it does say Le Petit Cheval from St-Emilion. It's Grand Cru, of course, 2018. And the bottle, I'm sorry, I've kind of dripped some, but very simple label. Not much on the back. But you will notice it's 14.5% alcohol. Here's the color of the wine. It is dark, almost purplish red, but huge intensity on this wine. Beautiful looking color. But I can tell you, yes, compared to other Bordeaux wines, this is really, really dark colored. The Cheval Blanc Grand Cru is aged, I think, 100% in New York barrels for, I think, 22 months, something like that. Le Petit Cheval is actually aged 50% in oak barrels, and about 4,000 cases is produced every year. I think it's about half the allocation of the actual Grand Cru vintage of Cheval Blanc. So I've had this open now for 2 nights, but I didn't have time to get through it. We drank it the first night, and it was heavy, heavy, heavy. So if you're into Napa wines and you never liked Bordeaux, you'll love this wine. It was like incredible intensity, overripe fruit in your mouth, as Parker-esque as you get with Cheval Blanc. And 14.5% alcohol, you can really feel it. It really packed a punch. Beautiful wine, but still stylistically Cheval because it was very smooth. Even though it was tannic, the tannins were very quality, what we call quality tannins. Reminds me a lot of the Tokalon wines out of Napa Valley in terms of the quality of the tannins. They're not gritty, they're not rough. They're very smooth, but they're still very powerful. So it's a very powerful wine, but very smooth on the palate. So now it's actually been in my fridge 2 days. And so maybe it's softened a little bit, but you can see coming out of the bottle, it's like a very, very, and I'll have a close-up on it, very, very red, almost purplish color. Very, very intense color to it. On the nose, it's softened a bit. Now it's got a little bit more floral aromas. Touch of oak. A touch of mintiness almost. But much more stylistically Cheval. Plums. Almost like dark fruit for sure. Maybe get some blackberries and some blueberries in this, but floral elements to this definitely now, which I didn't smell in the first tasting of it. But you can tell the power of this wine. You can smell it actually. Still really powerful, but it's really tamed after 2 days. Lots of dark berry fruit. But the aftertaste is now a little bit lighter. Very smooth, easy to drink right now. Not as attacking as it was when I first opened it 2 days ago. We had it out for a couple of hours in a decanter. It was still very tight. Now it's much smoother. Aftertaste got some cocoa, almost like bitter chocolate. So very, and almost a leafiness. I want to say like tea leaves or tobacco leaves on the aftertaste. And now coming into a little bit of roundness, a little bit of oak and vanilla on the aftertaste too. Really nice aftertaste right now. And very Cheval now. It's tasting very Cheval to me. And what I mean by very Cheval is that there's intensity, but there's a floralness and a good acidity, a liveliness, a vibrancy, and a smoothness. So on the palate, It's very smooth. It's very easy to drink, even though it's very powerful, and it's got a lot of tannins still. It's very smooth and very easy to drink right now for me. I think it's just beginning to hit its kind of drinking window. This is probably a little bit early 2018, but it was nice to see how it is. I think it needs about 5 years before it's going to hit its drinking window. But I think it's gonna, and it will probably drink nicely for another 5 years after that. So give it 10 years. It's not like a long drinking wine, although maybe it could last longer. It's a really good quality wine. And again, Cheval is making better and better wines, and the Petit Cheval is actually getting better and better. So hard to tell right now because I don't know how it will age. We don't have a lot of history with this type of Le Petit Cheval quality. So I'm going to guess it's going to be 10 years, but I think that will drink really well in 10 years. I don't know the wine inspector. I think it's 91 or 93. I don't know. I might have some ratings. I heard it was a really high rating by Robert Parker. But to me, it's up there. It's probably 93 points to me because it's just very hedonistic. I personally love Cheval wines, so that's part of it too. And it's very much in the character and the style of Cheval Blanc wines. It's, again, on the heavier side. You're not going to see as many Cheval Blancs this tannic and this powerful. And actually, it's a second wine too, so you can imagine what the first wine tastes like. But it's really delicious, and I think it's appealing not only to Bordeaux drinkers, but people that like New World wines, Syrahs from Australia, and Napa Cabs. I think you'll really enjoy this wine. It's a really fun wine to drink. So I'm really pleased that I had this early, and I'm intrigued about maybe cellaring this and looking at it again in 3 or 5 years. Hope you've enjoyed this tasting. Until next time, happy drinking.